Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of Yes and Ask Me, a show based out of Bear Stage here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm your host, Rick, and today's theme, today's topic is character creation. That obviously is character creation in the world of improv on a stage. I'm just going to go right ahead and introduce my panel for today. First, I'd like to introduce Tina Jackson. Tina, would you join us, please?
I'm here.
Hey, Tina. Thanks for being my middle square. Appreciate it. Let me do a quick intro for you. Tina Jackson, you are the owner and operator and creative director.
Artistic director, but yeah.
Artistic director of Bear Stage Improv Theater here in San Antonio, Texas.
Amen.
And because I've heard this before, you have roughly 20 years of improv experience. Is that right?
20 years, baby. 2020 is my year.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Awesome. My next guest is Jaylene Saeger. Jaylene, would you come on out? Hey, Jaylene, how's it going?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Jaylene, I have seen you perform on stage so many times at Bear Stage and also at Comedy Sports here in San Antonio. So you're definitely one of the senior players here in the San Antonio improv community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like the word senior. It just sounds like, since I'm closer to getting that discount.
Only with regards to improv. Can you give us a little bit of a background? How long have you been doing improv?
I have been doing improv here in San Antonio since 2014, so about 6 years, but I am a professor, and so I really feel like I'm doing improv like every day in my classroom, and so I feel like technically that should count, so I feel like it's 20 years too, but...
Okay, sure.
But no, I've been with Comedy Sports since 2014 and Bear Stage since it opened. Since technically before it opened.
Oh, okay.
Because Tina and I brought it.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining my panel for today. Appreciate that. My next guest. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Lex Simpson, get over here, buddy.
Get over here. Hi.
Get over here. Lex, another senior level player here in the San Antonio improv community. I know that you have a lot of experience at Bear Stage. In fact, you were one of my instructors. You were my level 5 instructor. And you also have experience.
That's what I put on my resume. I taught Rick.
You were Rick's instructor?
Yeah.
Okay, no, good. Yeah, I'm sure it means a lot on there. You also have experience at Comedy Sports here in San Antonio as well, right?
Yeah, let's see, I've been playing about 8 years. I've been, let's see. What did I say earlier? I already forgot. I trained in Austin at the institution primarily. I also did a lot of couple other programs. I did a senior level thing up there as well. Been all over the place. Was with Comedy Sports since 2012 until last year. I artistic directed there for several years. I acted. I've been teaching for about 6-7 years. And what was my joke earlier? I'm teaching well for about 5. Teach at Bear Stage now. Mostly Rick.
Yeah.
For like 2 years or 3, maybe.
Yeah. Just
probably like 2 years.
on my Rick status.
Yeah. You have
awesome.
Last year, so really did it ever start until then?
Yeah.
And currently, what do I do now?
You go here.
What do you do?
Yeah. What's the Thursday? It's been so long. What's the Thursday? I'm a regular. I keep party over at Bear Stage. And play with Lovers and Madmen. Tina and I have a Shakespeare duo and whatever else I can pick up, whatever else is flying around.
Badass. Thanks for joining us with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. So my first question goes to Tina. And Tina, as you know, I went through your training program at Bear Stage. Level 3 was the class that focuses on character. But unfortunately, Brian Scribner was my teacher.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's really terrible. Which means I still have all of these questions about characters. So
fair. Brian, we love / hate you, and I love you so much.
Love you, Brian.
Yeah. So where do we start, Rick?
Tell me why it's important. Why did you have a whole class devoted to character creation in your training program? Why is it important for an improviser to be able to get on stage and act as different characters as opposed to just being themselves every single scene that they're in in all of these?
So let me be clear. It's never wrong to play something that's close to yourself. On an improv stage, I think that's where we come, like where truth and comedy comes in, and playing what you know and speaking from a place of authority and blah, blah, blah. So that's never a problem. The only problem maybe ever comes when you only play that character, when you only are playing a character close to yourself. I think it's hard for the audience to connect with that willing suspension of disbelief that we're asking our audiences to come with us on a journey. We're going to make a bunch of shit up. This is grown-up make-believe. And so part of grown-up make-believe is using a different name, using a different voice, using a different posture, using a different point of view, perhaps, to create stories that aren't necessarily from real life, but, maybe could be. But playing outside of yourself, I think, is one of the most fun parts of improv. And improv, for me, is often about having fun and creating something that's different than what you would normally be doing walking through your life.
So I love the concept of being able to create a character with just posture, with your voice. Lex, this one's going to you, and this one I'm actually going to bring up a story. You have Lovers and Mad Men, the duo with you and Tina, but you have a different duo with Tina as well called Time Out. I remember watching you on stage with Tina for Time Out. You began. And just by the way, the form is this a weird ass form?
Oh, I think it is now, right?
Yeah.
We've changed a couple times.
Yeah, multiple different scenes, each scene with different characters. I believe the very first scene that you were in, you were a cross-dressing straight man married to a woman. The next scene, I believe you were a gay man. You were then in the next scene a straight man, and in the final scene, I believe you were a woman. I may have the order different, but cross-dressing straight man, woman, gay man.
Damn.
And I was watching you go through these different characters, and my mind was blown, and that you could do that, and that you could also do it so respectfully to the character that you were being.
Good. I was worried this was like a bad intervention.
I was worried too. I was worried this was going to get exposed.
I was going to say I tried to, but I don't actually know.
I'm sorry.
So my question here is, without getting into who you are as an actual person, you clearly aren't all of these different characters. You are not a gay man, a straight man, a woman, and a cross-dressing straight man. So how do you harness, how do you pool these different characters and still be true to them?
Can Jaylene talk for a minute while I think? Dang. The pooling comes a lot from absorbing things that are around me. I'm very, just as a person, I like to observe, I like to listen to characters. I've always been obsessed with different kind of characters and actors and performances that attract me, that are interesting to me. And I want to portray them in however I can. It all comes, really, every character in my head, you want to respect them anyway, because unless they don't respect themselves, if you're being a character, 9 out of 10 times the person that you're being is going to like, you are those things whether you like it or not. So being a character that, if Lex is judging a character or something like that, doesn't make any sense. I'm going to ramble for a second. You'll have to bear with me. So it's really, all of those characters are themselves. They like themselves. They have to in their own way, even if they don't like everything they do, which is where the respect comes in, regardless of the elaborateness of the character, whether it's a cross-dressing straight man, all the other things I apparently did, or if I'm just playing a normal cis straight white guy, or just or a child or an older person, you want to play respect to the character no matter what, regardless of those strengths, because otherwise you're parodying. Huh?
Otherwise you're parodying, or
and you're calling out, then you're using it as a joke instead of using it as a filter, as a lens through which to see the world, which is all a character really is. And they all come from that basic choice that blossoms into that. So you discover a lot of it too, but also just from, I like noticing things about people. I like the way people hold themselves, talk. I have a tendency to notice that and hold on to it and play it, because I think, like Tina said earlier, it's fun. And You should always pursue what's fun. That's why you should be creating any character. That's why if you're not pursuing the fun of improv, why are you doing improv?
Right.
It can be a lot of hard work to discover how to have fun the best way and in the strongest way. But I like portraying. It's something I've always enjoyed. When I found out improv was a thing, it just blew my mind that I would be able to just have fun and play around and people go, he's good at this. And I'm like,
what a great surprise that people enjoy the dumb shit that we would do normally.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So I think it comes less from, and I hope I don't remove any of the positive things from it, respecting a certain character than it is just respecting yourself and any character and that you're playing, regardless of its, even if I'm playing a shittier person, respecting that idea that this is a person who doesn't understand X, Y, or Z or any of those kind of things. And I respect people, so comes from a lot of that. I think exploration comes from just wanting to. I've played a lot over my years. I get bored very easily as a person, so I want to explore new things just constantly. So I'm always trying to find new ways to play and explore. A good friend of mine used to say, Jenny Stencil used to say, whatever character you play an absolute different one the next time you play. Whether it's even if it's just the exact opposite, just try not to play the same character in the same day, at the very least. Especially in a montage or a short form where you're going to be playing a lot of different characters back to back.
Oh yeah, we don't need to see them back to back.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's exhausting as a player. As a player who does montage, I mean, feeling the pressure to pull a new character for every single scene, it can be exhausting. But I loved that you focused on the exploration of that and the fun of that. So Jaylene, you mentioned that your background right now, you're a professor. So I want to pick your brain from the learning perspective. I've seen you perform on stage. You can do great characters. Were you always a good character creator on stage? Or did you please tell me that you worked on it and that you can get better, because I need to hear that.
No, you can definitely work on it and get better. I've decided, and I am not an authority in improv. I am an authority in the classroom. But so when I first saw Lex as a Caucasian gentleman rapping, I was so impressed, and I thought, I bought into the stereotype that you, like, if you are a certain shape, size, person, gender, whatever, class, that there are certain things you cannot do. And so Lex kind of broke that for me, and I said, do you think I could get better at rapping? And he's like, yeah. And he like gives me a CD of I believe they're called what do you call it when it's not the words, but it's just this like boom, 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 but was specifically for rap music? Beats. I believe they're called beats.
I'm pretty sure it's
and
boom,
so,
boom, but the rap music.
And he just told me, when you're in the car, listen to these and just make stuff up. He goes, it doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to make sense. He goes, I just want you talking or singing to it. So my girls and I, we would just listen to little did I know that they're actually like famous songs. Like then I worked out at CrossFit and all of a sudden I would like hear this song. I'm like, hey, I should be rapping to this. And it was like, I don't know, Big E Smalls big hit of something. But anyway, so I truly believe, because then I became, I would say, a pretty good rapper for the Comedy Sports San Antonio. Like I was able to hold my own. Even came down to a one-on-one do-rap with Lex and beat him one time in my life, and I do actually like to actually claim that fame. But my point is, no, you did, you and Jason and Tina, and I mean, I one of the things that I truly believe is that we need to be eclectic in our learning. We can't just concentrate on one person and say, this is what I want to be like. We need to recognize who we are, where we're coming from. We need to be centered in ourselves, and then we can learn from other people, and then maybe take on certain parts when it comes to character building. But ultimately it's going to be a little bit of ourselves, or it's not going to come across authentic. And I think that that's when we have a problem, is when we don't lean into the authenticity, because we haven't actually done even the tiniest bit of ourselves. We're just going to become a caricature of something that we've seen before.
And
so
good point.
I think that's a very salient point, especially about caricature versus character, which is something that I'm always very pushed on. One of my favorite things, and this goes a little bit back to Rick, I don't remember where I first heard this, but is the very distinct thing that black is not a character, gay is not a character, woman is not a character. These are these are just aspects of a person, but it's not something that you should play. Because otherwise, if that's your goal, you're like you say, you're disrespecting them. You're using it as a parody, a caricature, a joke, instead of an aspect of a person that might come out.
Now, I imagine, just in response to that, I imagine that there would be a question of like, well, isn't it our job, though, to be funny on stage? So what's the problem with doing a jokey character? You know what I mean? That's not coming from the Twitch thread. That's really just coming from like, I've heard this before. It's like, aren't we supposed to be funny? Isn't it funny if I do this like caricature-y, overtly outlandish kind of thing because it's our job to be funny?
I feel a ramble coming on. Jaylene, would you like to start?
I personally will just not ramble and just say, I feel that we as humans are funny enough. Just human life is funny. And I feel that if we tap in, so the way I personally develop a character, and I think Lex taught us that Jill Bernard, it's like Vapapov, or like there's a ton of different ways to develop a character. That was a lot for me. So I tend to just tap into an emotion. And if I'm overwhelmed, I just go to mad, sad, glad, and afraid. Or I tend to tap into an accent, which is another thing that I think can be learned. My accents were horrible at one time, and now they pass. And I will say that maybe the accent has become this caricature that we're looking for, but the character isn't. So you can still attach emotionally to my character, even though my accent may not at all be Slavic. If I say it's Slavic and I'm coming across as someone who is desperately in love, it's going to be Slavic.
I mean, accents aren't, well, okay. Absolutely. What was the original question? No, ADD versus ranting.
Authenticity.
Oh, no, it wasn't. There was something else. We're supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
At the expense of what?
I think if you are, it is a little controversial, but I think if you're in improv to be funny, you're there for the wrong reason. If your goal, like, is not our job to be funny. Granted, we should probably make people, it's our job to, at the very least, engage people. People should be engaged, inspired, etc., because it's art we're doing, which not all art is just supposed to evoke emotion, not necessarily a specific emotion. I've seen dramatic improv. It does exist. Our job is to evoke that stuff, is to be true in all those things. I think an improviser's job is to have fun, not necessarily to be funny, because when we're having fun, people relate to that. We automatically inspire that. Consider anytime in SNL or what's the Carol Burnett show, when they were trying to make each other laugh. When they laugh, we laugh because they're having fun. They're enjoying themselves. They're doing things that are enjoyable to themselves. And when we pursue that through character, when we chase things that we want to try or we want to have fun with, whether it's, an accent, which I think is what draws us to things, is because we find them interesting or fun or engaging, exciting. People relate to that, whether or not it's inherently funny. And like Jaylene said, is absolutely true. We are real. And if we have that character choice, which again is just a lens, our honest reactions are going to be funny or going to be engaging at the very least.
One time I had chosen to be a French character, and Lex at the time was our artistic director. And
I'm too many examples in this conversation.
I know, you're my only and I'll never forget it, because I had never even thought about doing character work through accents until I went to a championship with Comedy Sports, and this lady named Kristen Finger just kind of like encouraged us to just get crazy. And I just remember I pulled up this fake cigarette, which of course I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. And I just remember I whipped out this, like, what I would consider a passing, like a pretty darn passing, like, French character. And I was like, holy Toledo, Batman, did I just do that? I'll never forget, I came back to the field to use that character in Comedy Sports. And all I could hear was how horribly it was going. I mean, horribly. So my character said to the other character, "Oh, I was just trying to role play, so let's just get back to who we are or whatever." And I just like, I mean, I was mortified. It was horrible. And I'll never forget it. I walked off the field and Lex goes, "If you're going to be a French character, be a French character." And I was like, wow. And I'm not going to say I grasped that 100% because I was still mortified that this happened in front of all of my peers. But later on, I would see other players start something, see it going horribly wrong, and instead of just leaning into it and writing it out, and it can be painful, they backed off. And that is worse because now we as an audience don't know how to like care for you. We don't know how to hold you. If you're being this crazy character, then we can embrace that as that like, oh, I can get lost in you. I'm here for you. But the instant you say, and that was just me being crazy on the stage, then we're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? Okay, I think I have your, yeah.
You at that point you remove your own agency and have to start over. That's the biggest thing. I can pinpoint almost every scene that I've played, short, long, etc., that I felt bad about or that I didn't enjoy personally. 9 out of 10 times I dropped my initial choice at that top of that scene. Because I mean that's my boiled down theory to a character anyway, is that I try to stay away, especially when I teach earlier, from the word character and use the word choice, because I feel like character evokes these giant, complex Dostoevsky-esque, these big, with a background and a history and a very defined idea. Whereas all in improv, all that can show up at some point and does exist for us to discover, but it's really just a simple choice we make and allow that choice to blossom into other things. Just like Jaylene said right there, and it's a fun example of, you start with French accent and immediately go to cigarettes. So now you're a smoker. What else do you do? Why are you smoking? That means you're outside. Blah, 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 blah. The choice, a character is just the flower that blooms from the seed of a choice. That sounded really fancy. But it's that one choice. And if you let that choice go, then the flower dies. There's nothing to blossom and you have to replant a new one mid-scene. And if you're only playing for 3.5 minutes, which your average, 3.5 to 5 minutes, your average even short form or even montage scene is going to be,
and to dovetail on what you just said, Lex, it's actually almost selfish to come up with a character that detailed, because now you're not leaving room for your partner to endow anything on you or to or for you or for them to react to you because you have decided everything. And is it fun for the partner?
For you to discover.
Yeah.
So much of improv, no matter what, is always discovery, right? You can't create an improv scene unless you're doing a one-man show, which I have seen done excellently. Unless you're doing a one-man show, it's not up to you to create everything, right? Most improv is based on collaboration with your scene partner. So you're giving them something to yes and to. You're giving them something to respond to. If you're not giving them an opportunity to help you create the scene, it's a disservice to the scene, like any other pre-planning or selfish sort of move would fall into that category of like, no, I'm going to deny you because I've made a better choice for myself in advance. So I think character is just something that you are lobbing into the improv scene, into the world, to let your character to live and breathe, but to also let your scene partner respond to, because they have to be part of the reality that we're creating together.
Yeah. When you create characters on stage, are you pulling from real life? Are you pulling from people that you know, relatives, people that you've ever known? I'm actually kind of getting this from one of the Twitch followers right now.
Oh, good. Yes. Do I pull from people I really know? Yeah. I think it's, I think part of what is funny, I mean, improv sort of jokes about the comedy, the truth in comedy aspect, but finding what's true and real is relatable. So if you're operating from a true place of like, I'm inhabiting a person that I know in a different circumstance than they would necessarily exist or whatever, we're in an improv scene, but I'm going to play my mom or my mom comes up. Hey, Mom. But we was
that her question, Rick? Was it her? Was it Tina's
mom? Tina's mom.
Like, is she playing me on stage?
There she is. But like, we portray people who are close to us, people that we're familiar with. I think That's an exercise we use in our character class, is to inhabit somebody that you know and that you're really familiar with, talk like them, answer questions like them, get used to speaking in a voice that's not yours necessarily, not just an accent, not just an actual voice, but speak what else might be true about this person, and put them in a scenario that they'd be comfortable in. How do they act when they're comfortable? How do they act when they're uncomfortable? Taking aspects of real people that you are closely familiar with, whether it's your boss or your teacher or your kid, can lend itself to some real truth that people are gonna be like, oh my God, my son does exactly the same thing. And it's like, yeah, because my kid does. My kid does that, so your kid might do that too. And there's a relatability that exists if you're speaking from a true point of view, whether or not it's yours.
Wait, you have a kid?
I don't, no. No,
I remember my first show with Tina.
Time.
I remember my first show with Tina, with Missed Opportunity. So I'm able to tap into. Oh, did I freeze up?
No, you're here.
Okay, sorry. I'm able to tap into anger pretty well because my father has endowed me with many life experiences of anger. And at first, all my characters were really angry. And I'll never forget, I was screaming at someone in what is now affectionately referred to as my Brooklyn accent. And all of a sudden, Tina walks into the scene and just starts using a Brooklyn accent and screaming as well. And I was like, it was a whole new level of yes and, right? It wasn't just this I'm going to put this out there and you're going to respond yes, and then you're going to add a little bit to it. It was like a parallel yes and, right? And we just sat there and just made this amazing scene. And it made me realize that for me, that the accent helps me be someone else so that I can bring more depth to a character, so that I'm not thinking that I'm just me in the scene. When I'm just me in the scene, it's not so fun, right? It's just, ugh. But when I can be someone slightly different, it invites other people to have fun with me as well. And she took that opportunity, came, and yes, they ended an opportunity that wasn't necessarily a speaker interlocutor. It was speaker partner, right? Our interlocutor at that time was invisible. There was nobody there. We were just screaming at, I believe it wasn't it a coffin or something? You don't remember. So clearly this was not as life-changing for you as it was for me.
I'm so sorry, but I'm sure that happened.
No, it was a big lesson that you can yes and anything. And when you yes and a character, I think it's actually beautiful. I do think we need to be careful though, because I have found that when somebody brings in an accent or a character and then we mimic that, then so do other people. And then it's really hard to get away from that. And it looks all like the same scene anyway. And I think that diversity, I think that improv can be this microcosm of diversity and reflect the importance of diversity in the whole world. If we are accepting every character with all of their foibles in an improv scene, then why can't we just take that one step further and accept anyone and everyone that we come across with love?
Oh my gosh. You just took that so wide. You said one step further, but that's so wide. And
Big step.
I love it. It's a big step.
Instead of using improv to escape, I say we use improv to connect. That's all I'm saying. Hashtag connect.
No, I love that. So Jaylene, one of my favorite things that you just mentioned right now was freedom. You mentioned the freedom that being another character gives you, because you don't have to be yourself. I think we can kind of get locked in who we are, but on an improv stage, if you're choosing a different character, you can be, we talk about the reality of having infinite possibilities. And I love that. For myself, that's one of the things that, even though character work is so hard for me, knowing that I can just take on different characters, and that itself gives my performance some amount of richness, but also gives me a certain freedom to do other stuff on stage.
I mean, always contain the.
Go ahead, Lex.
The paradox that you can never be just yourself on stage, and no character will ever not have you in it. Those things will never exist. It's almost impossible, no matter what. And just from the what's the sciencey thing? Just from being observed, you're going to change. And when people are in front of crowds, they change who they are. It's just nature. You can get more comfortable being who you are normally outside of that kind of stuff or whatever, but you're never going to be someone completely different on stage, even if you're playing yourself. And no matter how French Jaylene gets or how drag I get, it's always going to be, there's still going to be elements of Jaylene in that. There's still going to be elements of Lex in any character I play, no matter what.
Well, and that's what makes you fun to watch. It's your interpretation of these people. It's your truth about them, right? I think it was a rehearsal with Missed Opportunity. Was that I was asked to give a monologue as a misogynist, which is very much like very opposite of what I am. But I was asked to give like a misogynist character monologue, which I hate doing, but I can muster. One of the arguments that a misogynist would make, to become sort of villainous in this thing that we were practicing. And I became like the show villain of like, in an all-female team, to give this misogynist monologue, I become the villain. And then it just gave them so much fodder to play with and against me, to say, well, sure, there's this aspect, but also this, and watch my character have to sort of face some realities. It became like a really fun exercise and exploration for me, to play a character that was so opposite me, because I hated this person that I was, but I portrayed him and found some truth within it, as far as like, like a woman got promoted above me, and where could my anger come from when I feel like I deserved it, but she got it because she's a woman, right? Like, to be able to explore aspects of yourself that you don't have any, like, I have no use for misogyny in my life. I don't explore it that much because I fucking just hate it. But to use that as a character and to find some truth and grounding to him and to portray it as earnestly as I could gave me a little bit of perspective. Now, it doesn't turn me against feminism, but it does give me the ability to step into somebody else's shoes and really be it. But I'm also doing it from the perspective of myself, right? As a feminist, I'm basically throwing all these balls at Missed Opportunity. I'm saying, here are all the things I want you to take me to task on. And it became like a game within the show, was let's take all of these reasons that Tina will give us to be a misogynist and take them down a notch. And it became a really fun show, even though I was the villain of the whole thing.
But I think what is notable with that is that misogyny exists. So if we're going to ignore it and never bring it into a scene, we're never going to take a scene to help our audience be aware that misogyny exists, and we can take it one step further and help people to examine themselves. Am I this person or not, right? And if I have a visceral negative reaction to that person, perhaps I need to go a little bit deeper. So the satire that a misogynistic character can bring to something can actually help with our like global awareness of how am I treating other people and how am I not. Ignoring what's out there isn't going to help us grow as a human race. I think actually naming it and saying it and putting it out there, and even though we do it in a lighthearted manner, it's actually just as potent, if you will, as just writing an essay on it or writing a book about it.
And I would say too, I'm not encouraging every team all over the place to please go misogynistic and see how far you can take it. That's super not my message.
But that wouldn't be improv, because now you're planning on taking it there, right?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's
but it is very much like what I was doing was throwing, and I wouldn't have made the same move necessarily, and I wouldn't have done the same kind of monologue if it hadn't been with this particular group of women. Right? I know that these women are going to take this character to task. I know this character that I'm creating is never going to win a scene. Is never going to, I'm throwing them fodder to play with. I'm throwing them information to use against me.
And you're throwing us the opportunity to fight safely against the patriarchy.
Exactly, because here I am, a woman, a feminist, arguing for femininity and for feminism.
Does it get any more binary than that? I mean, let's be real. Like, that to me is the epitome of what improv can be.
Yeah.
I think improv is didactic, whether we want to actually embrace that or not.
Didactic, you college professor.
So there's something that I think all of you are.
Oh yeah.
What?
Right?
What'd you
That's
say?
like
What'd
a
you say, Lex?
didactyl, like a.
Didactic, meaning
Yeah,
a teaching moment. Like,
Yeah.
It's the flying dinosaurs, right? The ones that are birds.
ay.
Something that I don't think any of you have actually said explicitly, but I'm hearing from every single one of you is responsibility. That we as improvisers have a certain responsibility to be authentic to the scene, to respect not just our scene partner, but the character that we're portraying, and the person or the person, the gender, the sexual orientation that we happen to be taking on. And I think that there's a lot of that we need to take seriously when it comes to responsibility.
I do want to comment on this because you introduced me with all this. We got off on this respect thing with Tina's, and this might be my own failure of education or my own difficulty of separating these things. But when Tina talks about playing misogynist, I don't think personally I'm able to play that straight. Whether it's out of my capacity as a man or out of my periphery, I don't think I'd be able to play a misogynist without satire in my voice or in my bones because of how little respect I give it, which it turns into a joke. We had that scene right before this went off of being diagnosed with toxic masculinity and having all those things. And it comes out as that. And I think it's because, and you can express this to other places if you're having struggling, is that I don't respect it at the very core. And so could I play a straight misogynist? Maybe. I have a feeling it wouldn't come out in a scene necessarily, because if you're
just the way I think that I couldn't be a white woman, the white woman that I am, and comment on in the same way about racism. I don't think that I could make some of those similar comments, but a team like Sugar Water Purple absolutely can, because they're coming from a place of I understand it as a person who's been victimized by it, and I can take that response to it. I think there are limits to what we do, and part of the respect is, I don't use an accent that isn't something that a white Anglo person could use. I'm not using a stereotypical Asian accent or Indian accent, or I'm not using something that I can't speak respectfully from the point of view of. And that's something we do teach in our training center as well, is like, hey, this is actually inappropriate because you're in general white. Please don't do that unless you can do it very respectfully. And I think even then we tiptoe on that line a lot, or not like as super often, but like when we're tiptoeing on like what is and is not appropriate, that's subjective. That's subjective to me. That's subjective to the other people in your class and your teammates. That's subjective to the audience too. The audience might think that's very disrespectful if you're doing that, even if you're coming from the most respectful place in your heart. We have to be careful with some of our characters, and specifically those accents and cultural portrayals. I can speak from like what you were saying, is I can play a misogynist all day long, because at the end of the day, the audience can still see that I'm a woman. Speaking from that point of view, and I think Sugar Water Purple can do things that certainly none of us can do from a Black perspective, because we are not Black, and we can't make presumptions or assumptions about how that point of view works from a personal standpoint. And so I think we do have to be careful to use character respectfully in a large, like, worldly sense.
Which I think leads us back to the importance of diversity in improv, because we cannot bring everything, right? We need to check our privilege. As white people, we have to check our privilege, right? So why not open it up, right? This tiny circle that has historically maybe not been diverse, why not open it up to everybody? So now suddenly we can see this satire from different points of view, and we get to see it and we can feel comfortable in it, because it doesn't matter how much I study racism or female agency or what have you. Like, there are certain things that I will never put across that will come across okay. So why not open that venue to somebody else? You disagree, Lex?
Sorry, what?
You disagree?
No.
And that's okay. That's okay.
No, it's not.
I'm saying, no, stop. Too many women. I think the struggle with representing that diversity, or because there's an element of saying, why shouldn't we play one of those characters. Not necessarily like I'm white and I should play whatever I want, but what holds us back? And there's of course agency and ideas of those things to take into effect. But I think when you boil it down, a character comes from exaggeration. And I say it meaning literally, not usually we say exaggeration and it's like, I caught a fish this big. But I just mean even slight exaggeration, slight changes in how we act creates character. That's where a lot of it comes from. If you think of any of your favorite characters, they come from some form. The memorable aspects of them, you're never going to remember somebody for being, maybe totally average, but just being normal. You're going to remember the things, the character, what your mom is or your dad's rage is the exaggeration from what we consider a neutral or a base. Yeah. And when you start playing a character that, if you're playing a character that your process is black or something, then you're going to exaggerate what you process as that. When that, again, is an aspect of a character, so many of your characters could be black and it never comes up because, frankly, it doesn't have a tendency to come up, or gay, or married, or not, or any of those things, because our exaggeration is where fun comes from. Don't get me wrong, in character and exploration, but it can also be where cartoonish clowning, or what do you call it? What did we say earlier? Caricature
and stereotypical, right? We can actually hone in on a stereotype, and that is only going to perpetuate racism and exclusivity. It's not going to embrace any sort of inclusivity when we're stereotypical in our characters at all.
I love how we're discussing character, but we're also talking about the implications that are us choosing these characters have, and the nuance that we're having to really be conscious of. So that's actually the end of our show, guys. We don't have any more time.
Oh, yeah. I have one quick thing.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All the characterization. I want to just bring up something Jaylene said, because if this is ostensibly about creating a character and not about what characters are better or worse to play, I do want to say that finding the fun, and like Jaylene said, when she starts playing a French character, or what's your Brooklyn? What was your Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
I always love a good portmanteau. Find, for you, Rick, you're saying you struggle with character as well. I always try to say, find one thing that helps you speak. I like people playing kids because kids have a tendency to never shut up and they just say what's on their mind. Any aspect of, say, of a Papo or a character thing, whether it be spine, walks, accents, voices, anything that allows you to explore and speak freely is what, especially early on, you should pursue.
And additionally, it can be like you walk on stage, you accidentally trip. Oh, suddenly someone's clumsy. One time I accidentally was talking to Tina, my character was talking to Tina, and my eye crossed. Suddenly I had strabismus. And like, do you remember that? Anyway, like anything can create a character. One time I stuttered. It turned into the turning point of who my character was. So anything can make a character.
And everything. So
and that's also why I generally try to approach character from the place of emotion, because I think everybody has emotions, everybody can feel things, and that's never ingenuine to operate from a place of emotion. I think that's generally for new improvisers is a great place to start.
Absolutely.
Because you're not wrong. If you feel something, you're not wrong about it.
No one can change how you feel about a thing in real life and on stage, and then all you have to do is, once you've learned that and feel that, apply it to every other choice. No one can tell you that you don't walk how you walk, that you don't speak really fast, that you don't. You do you.
That's you, girl.
The harder you commit to it, the better of a character you're going to have.
I know we're out of time, but is there something that any of you guys do to like practice character stuff at home, since everybody's at home right now? Like, is there anything that you do to practice voices or...
Every single book that I read to my 7-year-old is in a different accent, and she can't stand it. She, like the other day, she goes, "Would you just talk in an English accent?" "Not a problem. You want me to talk in an English accent?" "I mean that kind that's here in America."
I can do whatever I want.
Harry Potter?
Monologues are my favorite. I think what Jaylene said is great. If you like voice, if that's something you want to go through, definitely reading anything, whether you got kids or not, is a lot of fun in that. Monologues are a great thing. Walks, just find things you do. Exaggerate yourself. Find all those kind of things. I do it habitually. Like I said, I just found a place where I was accepted for my oddity, or applauded for it, which is absurd. But instead
Posture. Try posture, right?
Yeah. Posture things. Make yourself comfortable. Make yourself uncomfortable. Take up more space. Take up less space. Play with emotions. Read the same thing in all 4 cardinal emotions and have fun with it and see how those play out. It's just great.
One of my coaches once said, deliver the line from up in your head, then deliver the line from your throat, then deliver the line from your chest, then deliver the line from your sacral, and just like see how you're
Is that
the gut.
Is that a weird euphemism that I have never learned?
My point is that there are different registers over your body, and it was something that I think maybe I knew intuitively, but had never actually intentionally practiced. And when I leaned into it, it really does. The same line comes across as a different character each time.
I will say, as an early improviser, don't be worried about stock characters. If you play the same character a lot, that's okay, because it means you're comfortable with that character from speaking with it. Eventually, of course, you don't want to do it exclusively, break away from it and all those things.
Yeah.
But the more, whatever, because if you're being pushed into an uncomfortable zone, that's not necessarily bad, because you want to break habits, discover habits, and break them. But feel comfortable in what you're playing in those comfort zones, because it's allowing you to speak, and then slowly shift it and apply it. Because that's really what it comes down to, is being comfortable to yes and. If you're automatically, your character isn't, you are not comfortable to just speak, then find what does. Playing a kid, playing an old person, they're often very similar. Using an accent.
This is all fantastic. This is all great advice. I'm going to be watching this video like over and over and over again, just so I can get better at understanding this stuff. Thank you all. What?
Thank you.
This was very scattered and terrible. I'm going to have to watch this like 7 times before I
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lex Simpson, thank you so much for joining us. And also thank you for being the only person to give a quantum physics example in what you were saying. I loved it.
Okay, I don't remember that, but good.
Jaylene Saeger, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. All of your insight was fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Didactic. I just want to point that out.
Oh no! What was the spot? The weird spot? My gut.
The sacral.
My sacral. Okay.
I don't think I have a sacral.
I'm sorry, I've gotten into body design, and it's just been fascinating. So if you want to get into body design, you'll find that I make decisions from there. Other people make decisions from other areas. So
whose body are you designing? You have a lab?
You can make fun of me all you want, but it has been life-changing.
Genuine questions.
Tina Jackson, thank you so much for joining us, owner and operator of Bexar Stage here in San Antonio. I want to thank also all of our Twitch viewers. Thank you for all of the great conversations that you threw in there. I tried to incorporate all of your comments into this conversation. And I would also like to say that things are crazy right now, folks. And improv theaters and community theaters in general are hurting right now. So if you've never seen improv before, go online, look one up. The moment that bookmark it, the moment that theaters open, go watch them. If you're able to contribute to them online, do that right now. If you're in the San Antonio area, go to bearstage.com. There is a donate button right there. And also bookmark us, because we want you to come and watch our shows as soon as we're open again.
Rick, can I just challenge everybody to just kind of go to that bearstage.com and just like share it and just put hashtag I donated? It might actually help. I believe people have the intention to help out small businesses, but don't necessarily know what to do or how to do, and they need that impetus. And so I donated last week. I will definitely share that page, and I'm going to put hashtag I donated in the hopes that maybe I can reach out to other people to that my love will reach their love, and their love will reach Tina's love. So,
sacral.
Thank you so much for that. Yes to everything that you just said. All right, folks. Thank you all for joining. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.